Are you passionate about learning a trade? Do you want to come to Australia on a permanent residency? Then do watch this episode on TRA Skill Assessment. Once again, we are joined here today by Harjeet from Aussizz Group. Let us know more about TRA.
Hello guys. Thank you very much for visiting us for another episode. I'll really appreciate Me TV's effort that you guys are doing a lot to provide information to all the international students, those are interested to come to Australia on a permanent basis or temporary basis or any other kind of student visas as well. I really appreciate your efforts. Okay, today our topic is TRA.
So Harjeet, let me pose the question, what is TRA? Can you explain a little bit more about this particular skill assessment?
TRA is a Trade Recognition Australia. They do provide services to get the skill assessment done. If any of the guys, they have got a particular qualification and particular experience in any trade field, and they will be providing the trade skill assessment to those applicants.
So trade मतलब बहुत generalized term हो गया. So but what occupations are listed in this?
Trade occupations such as cook, chef, motor mechanic, painter, construction related trades, and baker, you can say. There are many other kind of trades such as the builders, and you can say, you know, many trades are included when you apply for trade skill assessment. There is a list of trades you need to pick, and then you need to apply through the particular pathway, whatever is available when you apply for a trade skill assessment.
Okay, Harjeet, say for example somebody is from a different country, not just India. Let's not assume that we are only categorizing one particular country. So from different countries, is it still the same kind of procedure?
Yep, it is a different procedure when you apply for trade skill assessment, and TRA, they do have different pathways. Like when like you want to apply from any particular countries, then the TRA, they do have offshore skill assessment and a migration skill assessment pathways. When you apply for offshore skill assessment, there are some countries included such as India, China, Fiji. You know, you can see that in the list. Whenever anybody is interested to apply for trade skill assessment, we will be assessing their qualification and the country of passport, and we will be applying through that way. They can apply for only through offshore skill assessment if their country is included in that particular pathway. Otherwise, if their country is not included in that offshore pathway, then they have to go for MSA, which is migration skill assessment. That means they have to apply directly to TRA.
Okay, great. What about the requirements? I'm pretty sure it's going to be very hard to get into Australia as a PR, but since it's a trade assessment, and especially in Australia, there is a requirement for tradespeople. So what's the requirements?
First of all, the applicant must have got the qualification in that particular trade, and that must be as per the Australian qualification form, Australian level of studies. And then after that, they must have at least minimum of 3-year experience, and that 3-year experience they must have, like 1-year experience must be in last 3 years. That means at the time of application when they applying, 1-year experience must be within 3 years before the application, and 2 years can be any time. Okay. Total of 3 years experience required.
Fair enough. Say for example, the experience that you're asking about, can it be full-time or part-time?
That must be full-time experience. That must be minimum of 38 hours per week as per TRA standards, as per Australian standards. And the full-time experience they must have within, as I said, 1 year in last 3 years, and 3 years in any time. But one more thing that I need to consider over here is like when you say full-time experience 38 hours per week, and they do consider part-time experience as well, but part-time experience they must have minimum of 6 years. Then 6 years is equivalent to 3 years full-time. 6 years part-time is equal to 3 years full-time experience.
And what about when the qualification is happening? For example, is it during or after the course?
Yeah, that's a very good question. The experience must be post-qualification. It's like if the certificate that is required for chef to be equivalent for the chef qualification is certificate 4, right? And there are 4 in Australia, and their experience must be after the certificate 4 completion, right? If the person who completed their certificate 4 5 years ago and he's still on a student visa till date, right? Then that means he got 2.5 years of part-time experience.
Okay.
If he apply for any kind of 457 visa today and he got a 457 visa grant or a temporary residence grant today, then from today after 6 months, right, he will be eligible to apply for trade skill assessment.
Say for example it's me, I love traveling the world and I have experience in the particular set of trade in one country or my home country or various countries. Is that still applicable?
Yes, still it is applicable. Still it's going to be included for TRA skill assessment, but as I said, the experience must be minimum of 3 years in total, and that experience, when you want to apply for trade skill assessment, you must have a relevant documentations which is must required when you apply for trade skill assessment. The documentation that required to apply for trade skill assessment, first of all, is the reference letter from your employer, that like you said you have experience from various countries, right? And the experience must be included for all those documents from different countries. Like a reference letter from like India if you have experience, a reference letter if you have some sort of experience from Pakistan, a reference letter from any Italy or any other different countries.
So every country is
every country reference letter plus bank statements, pay slips or income tax return if you have done in that country, including all those documents which can prove, which can demonstrate your experience is genuine.
Then is it the same for qualification as well?
Yeah, qualification when you go for that must be as per the Australian standard, and they need to check your qualification that you have done from overseas, is that per the Australian standard. Then they will be able to assess your experience later on. Then they see is experience is enough as per the requirement, and they see all the genuine documentation. Then you will be eligible to apply for trade skill assessment. Then the positive outcome will be must if you prove all the relevant documentation.
What if I have no qualification whatsoever, but I have heaps and heaps of experience?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Actually, if you don't have any qualification and you do have experience, then in Australia we have a recognized prior learning, which is like you can apply for recognized prior learning certificates, and you can get the certificate by from the RTOs, and they will be providing you that certificate, and they will be saying like all the duties that you have done, that is as per the Australian standard, and now they will be releasing you the certificate on that particular date, and all the particular that subjects that need to be covered, and they may ask for the training, they may ask for the technical interview, and they may ask for the practical test as well when you apply for RPL, and then you will demonstrate your all the duties and everything, your all kind of techniques that you have for your trade. Then they will be issuing you the RPL certificate. Then after that you can apply for the skill assessment with that certificate. That means you are qualified in Australia. RPL, like sort of like equivalent thing.
Can I claim, or how can I claim for my experience for visa purposes?
Yes, you can actually claim that experience for visa purposes as well. Anyway, when you apply for general skill migration visas, there are various categories, various subclasses available, like 189, 190, 489. We will be talking for them in maybe later episode.
Absolutely.
And these 3 subclasses, when you apply, then experience can be claimed, and like 1 year experience in Australia is going to give you 5 points, and 3 years experience from overseas, if you apply for trade skill assessment from overseas, 3 year experience is going to give you 5 points as well. And 3 year experience over here in Australia, if you apply for migration skill assessment or offshore skill assessment via TRA, it's going to give you 10 points for 3 year experience.
Harjeet, say for example I am in Australia and I'm doing the particular trade course. Do I have to do it in a certain college, or can I do independently anywhere, for example TAFE, or does it have to be recognized by TRA?
That has to be recognized. That college must be comes under the CRICOS code, and they must issue you COE as well. and that's how you can get the certificate if you're an international student, right?
Yes.
And that's how you can get the certificate done for them, and then you can apply for the trade skill assessment.
And what is this RTO that I've been hearing a lot about?
RTO is the Registered Training Organization, and they will be they are like appointed by TRA as well. Like when you apply for offshore skill assessment, there are various RTOs comes under TRA, which is like Aussizz, William English, and like Victoria University, right? And when you apply through for the cook or chef skill assessment, William English, Aussizz, Victoria, all of them are like involved to provide you the skill assessment through offshore, right? And it's like, as I mentioned earlier, when you apply for offshore skill assessment and your passport of country, your passport is from any particular country, then you can go for only offshore skill assessment, and the RTOs will be the one who will be giving you the trade skill assessment. And but if your country doesn't comes under offshore skill assessment pathway, then you can apply for straight to trade recognition Australia through migration skill assessment pathway.
Okay.
And there's no RTO involved in that one. Then you have to apply straight to TRA. And the pathways, I mean, both of the pathways particularly, I mean, similar, but they have just make it their work easier by saying that because so many cooks, chefs, painters, and other tradies are available in different countries. Absolutely. And that's how they have divided their work.
Okay.
You know, and they have a particular pathway to apply.
Say, for example, I'm still studying, doing the trade course, and I have zero experience. What's the scenario then? Yeah,
that's a good question actually. When you're studying in Australia and you don't have any kind of experience and you're an international student and you're about to finish your course and you believe like what are my options to apply for PR or temporary residence, then I would suggest like before you finish your study, and you must have minimum of 360 hours experience, and then you can apply through a job ready program after when you get the TR applied. Yeah.
Very good option.
Yep. And you know, it's a job ready program. It has 4 steps, right? First of all, the provisional skill assessment is the one that we need to do. For provisional skill assessment is 360 hours experience is required, and that 360 hour experience must be in that particular field. And like if you apply for a chef, then experience must be like as per the chef requirements, and you must do all the duties that the chef does, and then experience that can be 20 hours. Like anyway, on student visa we cannot work more than 20 hours per week, right? And a student who is working in that field for 20 hours and then after finishing their 360 hours experience, they can apply for provisional skill assessment. Right, and then provisional skill assessment will be giving them that temporary residence as well, right? And then you apply for 485 visa. Like for 485 visa anyway, the provisional skill assessment is must, and the occupation must be in medium long term skill strategic list, and chef is the one which is also in medium long term list. And the applicant, he can have experience as a chef for 360 hours, apply for provisional skill assessment, then he can apply for temporary residence, and temporary residence will be granted for 18 months.
Okay.
In that 18 months period, he can do a job ready program full on.
Okay.
Right? And then first step is already completed when he did TR. The second step is he has to register that employer for minimum of 1 year period, right? And that 1 year period must have minimum of 1725 hours. That whatever experience he do on temporary residence is like minimum of 1725 hours. And second step is just for the registration of employer. And the third one is job ready workplace assessment. When he finished that half of the experience, which is 863 hours, then he need to do a test to TRA. Then he need to book a test. And then TRA will charge them like 2,000, and they will be visiting to the place, and
just to check it out.
just to check it out. And they ask for the same duties and same responsibilities that he do at his workplace, his or her workplace. Then he needs to demonstrate it strongly, and anyway they're going to ask everything related to his employment. Like if you work in any restaurant, they're going to ask all the questions related to his restaurant only. Not like if he's working in Indian restaurant, they're not going to ask him to cook any Italian dish.
Yes, that's
right. Obviously, they are going to ask him to cook all kind of a tandoori chicken or that sort of things, right? And third step will be completed if he pass. If he fail, he has to pay $2,000 again. Then anyway, there is no issues. They're going to visit him again.
When you say that they will visit and they will interview them, is there a chance that they'll actually speak to the employer as well?
Yes, they will speak to the employer, and they will see if the duties that he do is in safe mode. They will check all the hazards. They will check all the premises and everything is fine. You know, they're gonna check everything. They may ask all the other employees as well, like how you guys participate when you perform, like what are your usual day spent at your work. And when the third step is completed, and then there is fourth step involved. Fourth step is too easy. When you finish 17-25 hours, approximately 1 year period, then he can submit all the documentation to TRA, and TRA will give him full skill assessment plus 5 points. Remember, I said 1 year experience in Australia will give 5 points. He's going to get 5 points.
So all that hard work is going to pay off with 5 points. Brilliant.
5 points is matters a lot for him. Like sometimes a person is only lacking behind for 5 points to apply for PR.
There are so many people who can agree with that.
Exactly.
Harjeet, some of the most popular visas like the 457 visa and employer visas, do they have an option where they can opt to apply for TRA?
Exactly. A person who is on a 457 visa, they can apply for trade skill assessment as well. You know, like a person who is on 457 visa, just say for example, if like cook is not in medium long term list anymore, right? And applicant is on a 457 visa for more than 3 years, and then if he's on for 457 visa for 3 years and he's not eligible to apply through 457 PR pathway anymore, then he can do a skill assessment and apply for general skill migration pathways. As I mentioned earlier, 189, 194 and 9 visas is going to lead him to the PR pathway.
Excellent. I think I'm all done. I'm fully equipped with the information that you've given me. Hopefully I can answer many questions. But what are the likely changes that can happen in the near future?
I believe the changes is not going to be happen as per the current. It's not as easy to apply for trade skill assessment. It's not as hard to apply for trade skill assessment. It's like once you meet this criteria, I believe, then you are just there. And the person must know the pathway to apply for a trade skill assessment, because they have various pathways. Like first of all, they can apply through offshore skill assessment, migration skill assessment pathway, 457 pathway, and one more thing I forgot to mention here. TI, they do provide extra service as well, which is a point test advice. Right? If any applicant they apply for skill assessment through Aussizz or through William English or through any other RTOs, right? And TRA, they do advise you for the point test for your pathway toward general skill migration. When you apply for general skill migration pathway, if like a person is not sure like he would be able to claim that employment or not, then he can apply for separate services provided for trade skill assessment, and that is like point test advice. And then TRA will be advising them they would be able to claim or not. Again, they would say like this is just an advice, and immigration will be the last one to decide, right? And another thing I need to add up for job ready program as well. When you do job ready program and you already completed first step, which is 360-hour experience provision skill assessment, and then when you go for second step, job ready employment, and then that time period, as I mentioned earlier, like 17-25 hours, 1 year needs to be done, right? And in that 1 year, you can claim 3 months from your prior employment. If a person who already did work in that particular field for 3 months before the registration, they can claim.
That's good. So nothing actually goes to waste.
Nothing actually going to waste. Then he or she will be eligible to apply after 9 months for a full skill assessment.
Harjeet ji, we have received a few questions from our viewers. I hope you can answer them for us.
Sure.
Firstly, we have Zakir. He's asking that he's saying that he's an Indian with a New Zealand passport, and he's doing his apprentice in a bakery. He's going to finish in 2 months. He's working full time with the job training. He's wondering if he can apply for Australian residency once he gets the degree there, and also to suggest for any work periods with training. Is it counted for working as with the employer, or is it counted as just training period?
Yep, let me explain it thoroughly. Like, first of all, whenever he wants to apply for baker, his qualification must be like whenever he finishes his qualification, his experience must be after that, right? And that whatever qualification he finished must be as per the Australian standard,
Yes.
and equivalent to Australian studies,
we have
right?
spoken about that.
Yep.
Yes.
And whenever he finish his qualification, that experience has to be counted post qualification only,
Okay.
right? And then, as I said, for TRA skill assessment, he need minimum of 3-year experience for baker, and 1-year experience must be in last 3 years. If he does have that experience, then that can be counted, right? And that experience must be again full time.
Okay.
If he has part time experience, then 2-year part time is going to be 1 year full time. Yeah.
Okay.
Then he will be obviously eligible to apply for general skill migration pathway PR in Australia.
Beautiful. So there you go, Zakir. It's been explained. Welcome to Australia. Apply for it in the right procedure. So we've got another question, Harjeet, from Rahul. Rahul's saying that he's on the subclass 600, and he's wondering if he could change his visa to stay in Australia for 1 more year.
Like, it depends, like, is he do have condition imposed on his visa? Like, first of all, we need to check if there is no further stay condition on his visa, then we need to get a waiver of that condition, and then we would be obviously able to apply any sort of visas, and depends upon like what sort of experience he does have from overseas, what sort of qualification did he completed from overseas, like which sort of visa is he be eligible, right? We have to see all his history before we apply for any. We can recommend him many visas. Anyway, first thing we need to check, is there any condition which is imposed on his visa for no further stay. Then we need to waive that condition, then obviously we can apply.
Okay, so viewers, you've heard that. Please, when you're sending us your questions, send as much information as you can so we can answer you thoroughly and with the right information. So thank you once again, Harjeet, for coming and sharing with us all the information about TRA. I'm sure a lot of people will listen to you and will apply and will be very happy to know that they can still do tradies and come here in Australia. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, guys. Pleasure.
This is a call out for all the tradies out there. Come to Australia because you can. Thank you so much for watching us on Me TV, Migrate Me. Until next time, see you. Bye.